today, I'm going to talk about marriage by not talking about marriage. I'm going to talk about you. So if you're here for marriage, well, that's what we're doing, but I won't say anything about marriage, really, okay? But today is a preface for next week. And then next week, believe it or not, is actually an opportunity. If you want to stop there, we can stop there. But on November 15th, Keith and I are going to offer an opportunity to do a marriage conference sort of day here on November 15th, a Saturday. So just be aware of the possibility of that. Also, there's a study guide out in the lobby along with the Voice of the Heart book that can allow you to step into. It really comes from about 7 podcast episodes that we put together out of the work I've been doing for years and years. Okay, so let's get started. Number 1, the first question that God ever asked was, where are you? And the title of today's talk is From High Chair to Wheelchair. The reality is that question's needing to be answered, and that's the most vital substance that God is interested in more than any other thing that he calls us into. He calls us into having a home with us. And the place where he makes that home is how he created us. We're image bearers of God. And the first question that God ever asked is, where are you? And it's Genesis 3:9. And the answer to the question was spoken out of the image bearing of how he created us. And the answer to the question was an emotional and spiritual response, Genesis 3:9. Where are you was not just like a physical description of, describe where you're sitting so I can find you. It was a question to know what was your motivation, what was happening within you, what made you go away from me, because the word for where are you in Hebrew is ayeka, A-Y-E-K-A, which is a lament. Like, come back to me, I've lost you, and until you speak truth to me, I can't connect with you. Now, I can see you, I can be around you, but I can't be with you. I can't be in our presence together so that we can be together more than you'll ever be apart from me. And the answer that Adam gave was, I was afraid. And in my fear, I hid. And fear is a feeling that God gave us to cry out, not a feeling that tells us to go hide out. And we're going to see today a little bit about how much that matters. Now, a second scripture I want to emphasize today is Proverbs 4:23. It is a highlight of what I'm going to emphasize today and next time. It says, above all else, the wise man said, above all else, guard your heart, for out of it, for it is the wellspring of life. This is the NIV. Another descriptions call it is for out of it flow all the issues of life. Above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flow all the issues of life, or it is the wellspring of life. And when Franklin Graham endorsed the very first printing of The Voice of the Heart years and years ago, it was in hardback, he used that as an endorsing phrase. I never dreamed that Franklin Graham would endorse this feelings book, because most of us and much of the church has been opposed to the very thing that God actually emphasizes and majors in. We are to love God with all our hearts, souls, minds, strength. We major in what God minors in, our strength. We minor in what God majors in, the word heart. The word heart is used over 1,000 times in Scripture. And if you throw in the synonyms for heart, like courage and stand fast and long-suffering, you get 2,000 references to heart, just alone. And the word mind, M-I-N-D, they knew what it was, the mind. It's not like suddenly we discovered it in 1924. The mind is used 125 times. God emphasizes how he made us from the context of us as emotional and spiritual creatures. Above all else, guard your heart. And it means treasure, value, oversee, tend to, nurture, recognize. And then you can go on from there, discern with, discriminate with, and be with. Because it is the connector that connects us to ourselves, to him, and to each other. Because if I don't know what's going on inside of you, I cannot relate to you. I can only change your tire, but I can't help you sit with your life until you come back to living again after a great loss, unless I can relate to loss. Okay, so I'm going to show a video that speaks to how we're created as emotional and spiritual creatures. We're going to look at the high chair, and we're going to end today video-wise with the wheelchair. And I want you to know, as you were born, so shall you remain. And either that's grown or it's ignored. But wherever you start, there's always a point to start growing. And when the thief on the cross, who gets legendary play, because we're created to live fully, love deeply, and lead well, at the last moment of his life, he decided to dare to live fully, love deeply, and lead well. He actually said, out of his recognition of the difference between deserved guilt and non-deserved guilt, no guilt at all, he said, this man hasn't done anything. He's not like us. And he actually dared to ask for what he needed. He answered the question, where are you? And Jesus said, you're going to be with me even moments from now. So it doesn't matter where we start, but we're made to live fully, love deeply, and lead well. Now, he missed a bunch of fullness, and he missed a bunch of love, but he led well, and he left us a legacy behind him of leadership that even to this day, we're still talking about this man who has no name, because he dared to say, I was created to speak what's happening in me, and I'm in need, and I'm a feeling creature. And will you let me be with you? He did. And it's like he was the first one to have access to what Jesus came to do. Amazing. All right, let's look at the first video. This is going to be To Love and Be Loved. Today is From the High Chair to the Wheelchair. And what you're about to see is how God created us from a video by the researchers, Tornick. And this research has been going on for 70 years. And I want you to watch this little girl in a high chair who's pre-verbal, precognitive. Means she's not thinking much more than a puppy dog in terms of thoughts. But I want you to watch the emotional and spiritual need for relationship, because literally the neuroscience now confirmed to us what the Bible's been saying forever, that you literally you come out of the womb looking for who's looking for you. Okay, so can you run it? Okay.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In this still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. there's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
If you go to the next slide after that one, the baby was asking the same question God asked in Genesis 3:9 when the mother disappeared and they're created to be connected, and the child was already familiar with what connection's like. The baby began to, not being able to think and not being able to talk, expressing language of the heart, was saying, where are you? Where are you? Come back to me. What's happened between me and you? And the mother's was just doing nothing but not showing her heart. That was all the mother was doing. The mother was just simply passive expression. But that is equal to, I'm gone. And I want you to know there are multitudes of ways of being gone. You can have long conversations with the person talking about content or this, the substance of this or that. But unless we ask each other, but where are you? And able to respond to that, we are literally disconnected, even in the midst of a tremendous content. It's just an astounding thing. Now, every single thing I'm talking about, I keep reading this slide, but every single thing I'm talking about, every single topic, every single slide, I can go into it for 3 to 4 to 5 hours. So I want you to know I'm sorry, it's just an overview, but take this in and begin to dig into how God made you, because the rest of your life is waiting on you. And we don't have to be the thief on the cross. We can take it now if we dare, but it's a dare. And you're going to get hurt, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to be lonely, and you're going to be scared, and you're going to be angry, and you're going to have shame, and you're going to have guilt, and you're going to have to make amends, and you're going to have to reach out to be comforted by somebody else. You're going to have to ask for help. Woe is me, what a horrible, horrible thing to ask for help. By the time you're out of a high chair, that needs to be over, right? If you were 6 and walking to school, why not have your driver's license now and just drive? I mean, do it on your own, self-sufficiency. Every human being, and that's what that child was expressing, needs to belong and matter. And in Needs of the Heart, I write in depth about what belonging and mattering is. We all seek safety and care. What's astounding is what that mother did for that little child. The mother said, when she brought her face back, she said, I see you. And what happened was, being seen soothes. The child was soothed, and then the child felt safe, and the child returned to security. Literally, through being able to just show your face and ask where another person is, it literally does regulate the person and gives them a sense of, okay, then I can be myself with you. I can be an image bearing of God with you. And I want to repeat before we leave this and go to the next slide. The child, as an image bearing of God, was asking the same question that God asked when we left him by hiding our hearts. The child was saying, where are you? Now, God asked, where are you for our needs? We ask where others are for also our needs. Do you follow what I'm saying? Like, God doesn't need us, God wants us. And yet we do actually need each other. And we don't have to like that, but it's not going to change. And you don't have to like what I'm presenting, but it doesn't make any difference. Either you run from it or you deal with it. There's your options, okay? So we're called to face, feel, and deal with life, not face it and then run from it. This child was crying out with these 5 territories, these 5 roots of the heart. The child was actually crying out with, Mama, 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 I'm having feelings. My feelings are connected to needs. My needs are a desire to be connect with you. I long for a world that isn't like the one I'm experiencing right now, and I need you to show me how to live in a world full of joy and wonder and beauty, and also grief and loss and heartache. I'm longing to know how come it's so messed up. It's not like it's made to be. Because see, I was born with eternity in my heart, eternity in my heart, Mama. So how come eternity isn't here, Mama? Well, we broke that, you see, but it didn't break how we were made. It just broke where we were made to live. And so we're still like we were made, except we're broken now, and we're in more need than ever before. So that child was crying out with feelings, needs, desire, longings, and this most incredible, unbelievable, infinite, eternal part of us called hope. It just won't go away. I mean, there's something in us, even the suicidal person is actually, believe it or not, shooting or killing or drowning or drugging hope, because even though we're helpless, we can't stop wishing life were different than it is, which is called hope. I mean, it won't go away. It's just there in us. And either we own it or we get sick. Hope deferred, hope not dealt with, hope not owned makes us sick. But a tree of longing fulfilled is a tree of life. I mean, it's amazing. But if you're going to long, you're going to hurt, because we're longing to live in a place that doesn't exist here, but it does exist there. And our job, as much as possible, is bring there here as much as possible. And we do that through relationship. You and I are created as emotional and spiritual creatures, created to do one thing in this life. One thing. One thing. And it's not find your purpose. It's not find your meaning. It's not find your significance. It's not to call people into Jesus. Yet, the first thing you're called to do is to live fully, and you do so by living fully in relationship with others, with yourself and God. And then you will find your purpose, your meaning, your significance. And by your very witness of the way you walk around and live in life, people are called to wonder, what is it you've got that lets you be so alive that I would like to have a taste of, even though I don't trust it, I doubt it, I run from it, I want to reject you and punish you and test you. But yet there's something in you that reminds me of a me I used to be or wanted to be a long time ago. If it's real, give it to me maybe. All right, so go to the next slide. Now, this is an amazing chart. And Keith, by the way, thank you for letting me come here. Appreciate it so much. It's wonderful to be trusted in a church. And I go to church, by the way. Sonia, my wife right now, is in church and so on. But I mean, let's just say this is not a popular message. We would like to I'm connected to God, and then God gives me control, then life doesn't affect me and I don't have to feel. That's most of our Christianity versus we related to the people who we remember we used to be like. See, much of Christianity is forgetting that the people we used to be like and still struggle with being. And we end up forgetting the people that actually need what we needed. We often use God to hide behind instead of God being the strength that we walk in to go reach out to those we were once like in our own ditches. We're called to be good Samaritans. Samaritans are people who remember what it's like to be in a ditch. And then when they see somebody in a ditch, they go, I know you. We crawl down in the ditch and go, you don't have to live here unless you just want to. But if you want, I give you your hand. You remember the Good Samaritan actually took a first aid kit off of his donkey before he got in the ditch. And the thing is, how come he had a first aid kit on his donkey? Is because he knew that life hurts and things can happen. It wasn't just carrying around to fix everybody else. He was carrying around because he knew he could fall off his donkey too. I mean, we need help. Now, this list is how we go about getting help. You and I are created as emotional and spiritual creatures. And that list in the middle, it says feelings. Well, that little child in the high chair was expressing those very things, feelings. Now, I'll tell you a story as a way to go through this list, but very quickly, those are the 8 feelings that we've been given by a loving God to let us live fully in a tragic place. Those 8 words, those 8 feelings are tools, gifts that God has given us that will allow us to live fully in a tragic place. Does anyone doubt that this life is tragic? I mean, come on. This is the wrong place for you to be if you don't believe that, honestly. But there are sad things that happen, hurt things that happen, lonely things that happen, fear. And these are tools that we've been given to live fully in a tragic place. Every single one of those feelings takes us to the right-hand side of the feeling, takes us to being in need. And every single one of those needs takes us to reaching out towards God and others in relationship so that our needs can be addressed. And if our needs are addressed, we wind up with the benefits of having our needs filled. We wind up from sadness to acceptance. Now, if we run from how we're made, if we run from feelings, if you see just 7 of those things as negative and need to be hidden from, you're missing the point. Those feelings are not negative. They're all good because they're all indicators of us having needs that need to be addressed so we can return to strength. We can be recreated. We can recover. We can be redeemed. We can be restored. We can be resurrected. We can be RE'd. We have an RE God. And if we hide out, we'll pay the price of what it cost us to hide out. That's going to the left. What happens is people who won't admit that they're lonely wind up in the territory of apathy, which is trying not to care, trying not to be affected, trying not to be influenced. And at the same time, people who are apathetic wind up moving towards becoming cruel people because they spend their lives denying that they're human. So I want you to know, when we run from how we're made, we're moving towards an end result. And remember, Satan only has one tool. And the one tool is to isolate you from how you're made so you won't be in need of the God who made you and take you away and try to make you self-sufficient. He brings you back to a place of isolation, running from facing, feeling, and dealing with life by being in need of each other and God. Just wants to take you away. You fix it yourself. And remember, Satan's always saying two things. One is, nobody has to know what you're about to do. Nobody has to know you're hiding out. And then once you've done this thing that covers for you hiding out, because see, either you're going to deal with your feelings or you're going to have to numb them, anesthetize them, deny them, excuse them, which requires that you be mood altered on some other level besides having your moods touched in relationship. And the devil says nobody has to know. And then as soon as you're trapped in what nobody has to know, the devil comes back and says, now what if somebody finds out? It's a trickster. And let yourself be found out. Yes, it's going to be embarrassing. Yes, you're going to have shame. Yes, you're going to have guilt. But that's what Jesus came for, to address the very thing of us running from how he made us and coming back to who he made us to be by addressing how we're made. Now, go to the next slide and hold it, please. No, wasn't the ballerina next? Yeah, I think. Yeah, good. Don't start yet, please. Can you hold it? Okay. I'm doing good. 18 minutes. This is crazy. What have I not said? Actually, watch out. Okay, don't go far. Okay. I have to tell myself. All right, now, can you stop it? Or just go back to the slide before it. Yeah. Okay. Now, some years ago, my son was diagnosed. Let me tell you how this thing works. My son was diagnosed with a spinal tumor. I was in Nashville working. I owned an addictions treatment center for 22 years. And I got a call from Sonia. She said, Chip, Williams, the orthopedic surgeon, there's some trouble. And so, come here, be here as quickly as possible. And I was afraid. She didn't go into what the trouble is because she needed to get to the next appointment, because the orthopedic surgeon had done a bone scan of my son, William, and we thought it was a baseball injury. His back had been hurting. We thought he pulled muscles or something like that. So go to the orthopedic surgeon. I love this surgeon. His name was Tommy Johns. I could not understand a word he said because he mumbled. I could only understand him when he cussed or prayed. I couldn't. He'd go, rah, 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 and then cuss. Or he said, well, let's pray. And I understood, I'm in Jesus, but that. But he brought it all. And Tommy came in after doing the bone scan, and he put his forehead, Sonia told me, on William's forehead, and said, son, you got a mass on your spine, but I'm going to tell you something. Son, I'm not leaving you. I'm not leaving you. We're going to stay with this until we get some answers for this. But this is not a bone problem. Now, he called Dr. Moreno, who, it was almost 5 o'clock, who was willing to stay over just for a few minutes at his office, and that's where I met Sonia and William. And Moreno said, look, I've already looked at the scan. This is so much bigger than anything I do. You're going to have to go to Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic, or maybe somewhere in Nashville. Somebody might, but you got to go where it is, whether it's Baltimore or Cleveland or wherever it is, or Mayo or whatever. And we're just stunned. Well, it turns out he had a mass on his spinal cord outside the spinal column. So it's on the nerve system in his body. So I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm angry, and all of that comes to, I need help. Sonia's scared, Sonia's sad, Sonia's angry, Sonia's fearful, William's fearful. His brother came in from college to be with us, and we're asking questions and wondering what's coming, and we don't know what malignancy or what. And so anyway, so he winds up, there was a surgeon that was in Nashville for 2 years doing this amazing spinal cord work. He went off to the St. Louis Med School in Washington University in St. Louis now. But he operated on William. there were probably 20 people that at first, I've been a person of significant denial because toughness was the calling card of being successful. And I described a lot of the things that we'd been through in our family as paper cuts. We're dying of 10,000 paper cuts. And I remember my oldest son that came home from college just about tore me up. He goes, "Dad, these aren't paper cuts." It was the 14th surgery we'd been through. I've had cancer, 7 eye detachment, retina detachments. I mean, kind of like, and I kept describing these things as things we'll get through and things we have to, instead of what we have to attend to. And I remember he got on me that night, and I'm like, "You're right. You're so right." Kind of like, this is your son. Wake up to this. So he gets operated on, and I remember that when there were like 25 people who came to waiting with us. I was embarrassed at first to ask for prayer. Those 25 people were real important that day. 25 people. I hardly knew I knew 25 people I could call on to say, "Pray, please." But I remember when they took the gurney away from Sonia. Sonia and I were in the OR area, and they were about to take it away. She's clinging to the sheet. Her hand's on the sheet. Like, there's some way I can keep this from happening. And I remember when the sheet slipped through her fingers, like the thumb and her index finger, the sound that came out of her body was a sound of an animal. It was low, longing, guttural. That's all hers. If she could have gotten on that gurney, she would have ripped him off the thing and taken him home and just held him until whatever. She would have harmed him with the longing if she weren't willing to feel it. And when he came to, it turns out that it was, God. We didn't know if he would be peeing in a sock the rest of his life, with a bag or not. The tumor was benign, and thank God, and it peeled off of his spinal cord. And when he came to, the first question he asked the recovering nurse was, "How's my mama?" He heard her. And he wanted to know how she was because he didn't want her to be in pain, and he didn't want to separate himself from wishing she could fix it. Because in foxholes in war, soldiers who are wounded, they cry out for two people. Either they cry out to God or they cry out for the mamas. So, mamas are real important, and which makes daddies real important, making sure they take care of mamas too, so that family can be a unity, a powerful unity, and so on. So, and then we got in there and we were able to tell him, "Son, you don't have cancer." And he says, "Oh, good." I was so scared, and tears were just rolling down on each side of his face. We were all so connected. Then he couldn't be touched. He was in 5 days of such excruciating pain that Sonia could not find a place, or could I, where I could touch his body without it just being like he was on fire. And she wouldn't leave the bedside except for 8 hours in 5 days. And I kind of dragged her out, "Go take a shower," kind of thing. And I, not being as good as she is, took over for a few hours, And finally, she put his earbuds in. And do y'all remember a guy named Bebo Norman? Bebo Norman was a Christian singer. And when she put his music in William's ears, Bebo's music in his ears, he slept. And she could hold his foot for a few hours. Now, that's a story of having feelings, being in need, and receiving the gifts that come from being in need. You see, acceptance is it's not okay, and that's okay, though it's not okay, and that's okay, and it's okay that it's not okay, but it's still not okay. That's what acceptance is. It's called where sadness can take you to. The loneliness of believing in paper cuts as a way of bleeding to death leaves me fixing it. If I can't fix it, then I just won't deal with it. Instead of, I'm lonely in this experience and I'm scared. Will you pray with me? Will you be with me? Will you walk me through it? But we have to value the pain before we can be in need of the help. If you don't remember anything else, please remember to value the pain so you can be in need of the help. Because if you don't need God, you won't get God. He's here and sovereign, but you'll miss what he has to give you because God is the God of intimacy. So this feeling chart is basically really simple. Either you deal with you or what you run from will deal with you. And that's going to affect your marriage, your work, your personal life with God on every single level. Now, I used to believe that my calling was to be strong in body, mind, and spirit. And all I did was get sick. And then somebody introduced me to that, and I said, what is that? What are those things? Those are weaknesses, negatives, negative thinking, pessimism. I didn't know they were the doorway to freedom, okay? Now, upon the doorway of the human heart are written 8 words. Those are them. They're passwords that let you into your heart. They're lanterns that show you around inside yourself to point to what you need. And they're keys that unlock doors to expand your mansion. They'll open you up to more and more and more and more and more. Now, I'm old. I'm 67 years old, and I'll be 68. I'm going to get another hip replacement. Jacob's limp, I get 2 Jacob's limps, which really means you're stubborn and you're arrogant and you're difficult to deal with, okay? But I'll get another hip replacement actually next Monday after I'm here Sunday. And the keys. Oh, I forgot what I was saying about how to get to limp and hip. Anyway, that's what I do. All right, now, so either you deal with you or what you run from will deal with you, from the high chair to the wheelchair. We're made to be attended to from the inside out. And I want you to watch this lady in a wheelchair on her way out as an old person. Oh, that's what I was going to say. As an old person, I want you to know that when we live from the inside out, rather than getting older, we actually get stronger. And what I mean by that is that I've been doing what I'm doing for 37 years without giving up hope and without a sort of a tiredness that comes with, I think I'm done. It's like I'm still young even though I'm not. I'm still alive even though I'm dying. I can't stop this. See, when the heart grows, you wind up being compelled. You can't stop wanting, wishing, hungering, thirsting, and being in need and moving towards what needs supply us. Living out of the wellspring of life. Wellsprings water things. If you throw enough rocks on them, they will only trickle. You can't stop them, but you can set them free. And we do so by being willing to feel our feelings, tell the truth about our feelings, and give them to God or trust God with the outcomes. That is how life actually works. By feeling your feelings, telling the truth about them, and handing them over to the God that will do whatever he's going to do with them, which allows us to struggle with God. Because I think God sometimes is a little too slow and tends to make mistakes. Do you follow what I'm saying? I'm kidding, but I'm not. Because I'll show up at the throne like, what are you doing? He goes like, what are you doing? And then we'll have a conversation. It's called Moses and the tent. He talked to each other as a friend to a friend, which means Moses challenged God. And God responded with love. Now, you're seeing a woman in a high chair. She's dementia. You clearly know she's not long for this earth. But I want you to watch what happens when the high chair and the wheelchair meet. I want you to know that there's something in us that, if attended to, never dies. The place we're made to grow into, live out of, and never leave behind. It's a memory that is beyond the memory of our cognitive trust. There's a memory beyond the memory of what we trust, which is strength of head, strength of body. God says, I want you to trust strength of heart. All right, if you'll play that, we'll touch base. Can you believe that? She was a prima donna ballerina from 1967, and hope was very much alive inside her. Longings were still there. Desire was there. Needs were there. Feelings were there. And until she had her needs touched, her hope wasn't aroused to get back into being seen. Remember, she raised her hand, and then like, forget it. No, this is too late, too far back. No, I don't want to go there. It's going to hurt. To remember is going to hurt. I'm going to feel. I don't want to do that. Let's just get this over with and let me die. And he picked up her hand, and he took her hand, and he pressed his hand against he pressed her hand against his lips. Like, yes, like your hand that came up to express yourself is there to do it. He connected with her, and she was reawakened to remember what it was like to be fully alive. And what she did was bless us by looking ridiculous. Old crow, old shriveled hands, just park her in front of the TV and let her watch movies until she stops breathing. And that's what she would have been willing to go to, except there's this thing within her that won't let go of remembering how she's made as an image bearer of God. And whether it's in the high chair or the wheelchair, that's in us. That is the powerhouse that allows us to do extraordinary, amazing things like plant zinnias in the spring so there'll be color when people go by our houses. It doesn't have to be Charlie Kirk. It can be something as simple as bringing your face back to a child in a high chair. That's simple. Or daring to remember, let me show you what I once used to show people in terms of a ballet. Okay? This is what we're creating. If you want to build a marriage that lasts, you got to bring the thing that most of us have discarded to the place where it's made to be expressed and received. In other words, I'm going to talk about marriage a lot next week, but this is the path of building a marriage that lasts. It's the man becoming emotionally and spiritually available through certain means to create safety, stability, and support in a couple's and family's life, and not running from the things that they're made to do, men are made to do, because there's a name for a man in the image bearing of God that is different from the name of a woman in the image bearing of God. We're all created in the same image of God. We're all created with the same worth. We're all created with the same heart, but we have actually different names in the Hebrew language. We have different assignments directly related to that language. And the way to have fulfillment in a marriage as a man and as a woman is counterintuitive. Counterintuitive means it's not what I thought it would be, all right? If you look at that list, that schematic, it's like I'm going away from her to come back to her, and that is correct. You're probably going to need to go away from her to get more of you, to bring more of you to her, so that y'all together can have more than you could even imagine, which we'll get to next week. But, and then I want you to know that dating, listening, and dancing, I really want you to come back next week and bring a friend, because I'm going to show you something that is one of the most amazing. You think it's part of a circus or a carnival, like I'm pulling a trick, like, guessing your weight with my eyes shut, even though I've never met you before. You walk in the building, I don't even know your name. I bet you weigh 140 pounds. And he's great, it's amazing. I'm going to show you something next week. Is this like a lure, Yeah. It can't be that good. It is. I can prove how good it is. Oh, so out of time. All right. How about that for an ending, huh? Zeros. All right, I'll stop there. But the main thing is, when you see where it says date, listen, dance, don't miss the dance. And dance means that you're showing up in your life with the person you've chosen. Y'all have chosen each other. You show up in the life regardless of what the dance steps are. Sometimes they're sad and hurt and lonely. Sometimes they're joyful and exhilarating. And sometimes they're sad. And sometimes they're scary. But if you don't miss the dance, you won't miss your life. All right, so, but that's not what I was going to tell you next week. What I'm going to tell you next week, even my youngest brother, who doesn't listen to anything I say, and I'm not kidding, Randy, it's like, okay, Chip's talking, whatever. But I said, listen to me, Phil, and he started paying attention. And he goes and does what I told him. I met him the next week, he goes, dude, that's really good, right? Dude, it works. So if you want to know how to build a marriage that lasts, I'll show you the magic next week, all right? All right, thank you.